Okay, so welcome to this very special event of business and spirituality. So it's the first time we do an event in English, and it's really for a very special guest from India. For the people who are following this group for a while, you know that we already discussed quite often that we would be very interested to have someone from Asia to discuss how the spirituality is used in businesses in other parts of the world than the Western world, where we are all from at the beginning of the group. And just by change, I meet Mr. Prakash on LinkedIn because he published a book that he is going to introduce quite soon. Just a few words on the group before we start. So it has been established in summer 2020 during the COVID crisis by quite a small group of people at the beginning who have some interest on how and to understand how we can use and discuss more about the topic of spirituality in businesses. So we start to share a little bit your knowledge, what has been done until now. And since the beginning of this year, we welcome often someone who make a presentation of what he or she is doing in the area of spirituality and business. And now we start to be also quite international. So the fact that it's the first time in English, it's also a good illustration of it. We already had someone from Quebec who make a presentation few months ago. So today we have someone from India. In the next month, we will have again people from Canada as well. So we really try to have more information and see also what happened in other parts of the world. So for today, it's my great pleasure to have Mr. Prakash from southern India. Is the founder and the CEO of Sea Change Consulting. So he's a widely read person and brings with him a rich blend of work, business management, and leadership experiences since almost 4 decades. So he's a nationally acclaimed author, coach, master storyteller, keynote speaker, and organizational turnaround expert and nation builder. He has 10 books published until now in 7 languages, and he has wrote more than 1,000 articles on self-development, spirituality, and varied topics. I get in touch with Mr. Prakash because he just published a book called The Spiritual CEO. I guess he will speak quite a lot about it during this session. So he will speak approximately for 30 minutes, and after his presentation, you will be able to ask all the questions and exchange with Mr. Prakash. So Mr. Prakash, the floor is yours. Just switch on your mic and we listen to you.
Namaste from India, and a heartfelt love to all of you who are watching this session. It's indeed my great privilege that when Mr. David sort of called me up maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago and said that you're going to be the first speaker going to talk in English in a forum which predominantly you had people talking in French and other European languages. I do have a lot of connections to Europe. I have traveled there. I have a lot of friends, both from the spiritual side and from the material side. I would be happy to say that all those whom I see on screen are my sisters and brothers. If you look at what brought me into this writing this book, I may have to start with my childhood. Like every part of the world, mothers or fathers always read some stories for us when we go to sleep. this part of the world in India, at least 40, 50 years ago, we were read a staple of Indian mythology in the evenings. Electricity was still scarce, and predominantly the day was shut by 8:30 in the night. Around 6:30, most probably my mother would take out one of the mythological books. Predominantly, there are two major works for those from Europe who might have been exposed to this. One is called Ramayana, which is the story of Lord Ram. The other is about Mahabharata, which revolves around the central character, which is the Lord Krishna, as we know. Predominantly, these stories, like the current movies that you have, there'll always be a good and bad. And the good is continuously tested by the bad, and the good wins at the end. And in this case, the God himself is supposed to have incarnated. And through the works that he did while he was on this planet, he is supposed to have shared a lot of insights on how humans should be, both at an interpersonal level, or even if you are a king, how you conduct the affairs. These made a huge impact in my thinking right from my young days. Why not bring goodness into whatever we do? Has always been a thought running in the back of my mind and my heart for a very, very, very long time. Is money more important than people? Or people more important than money? Should the purpose of the business be only to make profits? Or is it something bigger? These are the questions which have been working on me right from a young age. And when the pandemic broke, the ripples it created made me to really think of putting down all that I have learned and practiced, not just theoretically, but practically, into some kind of a work which would help become sort of a reference book into the future. When I chose the title, The Spiritual CEO, as my book, of course, the book today is published worldwide by Amazon. They bought the worldwide rights. It's available in all the countries across the globe. The topic that I chose was the spiritual CEO, and the question that came up from a few of my close friends is why the topic, the spiritual CEO? If you really look at how the world works today, everything revolves around organizations and commerce and economics. And finally, anything that you do has to be done by an organization, whether it's a public enterprise, a private enterprise, or an NGO. And they have huge impact, both in terms of the economical impact and also what I would call as a spiritual impact that they create or that they don't create. It is just not that we are responsible for our actions alone. Lord Krishna says in one of the works called Gita, which is quite famous now in the world, he says that you are responsible even for your inactions. For example, if you're driving by the road and you see someone hurt and lying down on the road, for you to go even without helping them is like inaction. And that is likely to haunt you mentally and morally for a long time to come. We have gone through all this all our lives. If such a simple act as not looking at a person hurt in an accident on the roadside can create such a ripple, what would it be for a person who heads the organization, under whom maybe 10, 50, 100, 1,000 people work? If you are a very large enterprise, maybe millions of people work under you. If you are like a company like Amazon or Microsoft or one of the large companies, millions of people work directly under you or through you. And the CEO who is heading the organization makes a huge impact in their thinking. Right from childhood, whichever part of the world we are born in, we have a tendency to ape our parents or elders and learn. That's how all of us have learned. If you look at the pedagogy of how learning happens, to a great extent, we learn by being inspired by the people around rather than just reading a book, specifically the value systems. And that seems to continue in my 4 decades of experience. I found leaders may talk something, but the people below will not follow what the leaders talk, but they will follow what the leaders do. Such a simple phenomena, but very rarely understood by the top level people, specifically the CEOs who are the number ones in the organization. And hence, when they do things or which are not in alignment with a greater cause, the people below tend to become machines. It's unfortunate that in many organizations globally, irrespective of how affluent the country is or whether it's a third world country, people are literally used as commodities. I hire you for a time, you work for me, you make a profit, I keep you. If you don't make a profit, you're out. The pandemic turned all this thinking upside down completely, though the making was there even 20, 30 years ago. The pandemic taught the importance of people over money. Many organizations which were considered to be literally untouchable in the sense of their size or their profitability literally broke to pieces and closed down. I personally have seen several organizations with whom we used to work have almost shut shop, or they have scaled down to such an extent that it's impossible to find out who they are today. In this crisis period, I surprisingly found out that some of the organizations who had values imprinted in their DNA seem to be doing very well. And in the book, The Spiritual CEO, I take a few characters based on my past experience. And by the weaving of their experiences based on a storytelling mode, I share as to how a spiritually inclined CEO can create a lasting impact on the people around them. See, in a still pond, when you throw a stone, it creates unlimited ripples. Likewise, a person sitting at the top, by his thinking and doing, can not only change the people around him, but he can change many people who are impacted through them. For example, every employee in your organization will have relatives, will have friends. And when they have something to talk about worthwhile, they'll go and spread that good message. And hence, CEOs become today in this world a pivot point for me. They are the ones who people follow without their knowledge. Because I spend 8 to 10 hours in a company, and the person sitting at the top trickles down his thinking through the organization, and what we do, what we think, and how we execute depends on this one single person to a great extent. And when that person's thinking is aligned to a larger cause, not compromising on profit, still on the way, he makes an impact which cannot be just written off. He makes literally what we call as a legacy. So coming back to the topic, then what is spirituality? Is it a religious stuff? Is it something confined to a few people who discard life, go somewhere, cut their family ties, become a hermit? Not necessarily. In my definition, spirituality consists of 3 pillars. For a person to be purely spiritual, it is a lifelong process. It's not a one-off incident or an accident that you talk about today and forget tomorrow, like breathing, like eating, like sleeping. Spirituality is a way of life. What are those three pillars? And how would these three pillars help an organization to generate profits, yet keep a larger purpose in mind and leave the world a better place than what we found? As a famous British author once said, if not leaving the place a better one, at least leave it as you found it. There are three pillars which I'll come to, which in my view defines what spirituality, at least in the beginning stage, is. And for that, it connects me back to a single human being's purpose of living at an entry level, at least. Everyone wants to be peaceful. Everyone wants to be happy. I have interacted in my career spanning 4 decades with super affluent, extremely wealthy human beings. I dealt with people who just have one meal a day and they're still happy. When I get close to them, one thing that they seem to say always is, irrespective of what I earn, what my position is, the car that I flaunt, or the properties that I hold, I want to be able to have peace at the end of the day. You cannot have peace by destroying somebody else's peace. Global peace and individual peace are interrelated. It so happens just 2 days ago, we all observed or celebrated the International Peace Day. Surprisingly, on that single day, data says that there is almost 80% reduction in global violence. I was reading some interesting data. In 2001, I think United Nations introduced this, the concept based on a tabling of an act or a request from the British Prime Minister then. Peace Day became part of our life. At least we seem to observe on 21st September every year. But if I have to ask you a question, if I give you 10 times the wealth that you currently have, but if I take your peace away, would you take the deal? Second question, if I give you 100x your current wealth and take your happiness away, would you accept for that bargain? I have interviewed more than 10,000 people on this two questions in the last about 10 to 12 years, since 2007, 2008. Heart of heart, except for the sake of argument, I haven't yet found one single person who's ready to give up his peace and happiness for the sake of his wealth. If it is true for you, how can it be not true for the people who are working for you? Recently, I was reading a survey of what we call as the great places to work in the world. There is a continuous assessment done by third-party bodies. And the top companies who have made it there haven't made it there based on the turnover or the salaries that they have paid. They have made it because people were happy and people were peaceful while working in that organization. And surprisingly, these surveys find out people who are happy and peaceful are more creative. They are more loyal. They are more committed. And they become part of the family. The organization becomes a family for them. And hence, without having to set them targets, without having to set them goals, without having to monitor them and push them, they work beyond what is even expected of them. Very simply put, when it comes to my family, does anyone have to tell me, please go and earn some more money for this family? No, nobody has to tell me. I will do it because it's my family. because that family gives me peace, that family gives me happiness. And hence, when these two pillars are taken care, peace and happiness, the third pillar automatically takes taken care, what I call as the growth pillar. Peace, happiness, growth, hence becomes like a equilateral triangle of individual, organizational, and global growth. If you look at the beauty of an equilateral triangle, all sides are equal, all angles are equal. And what is inside the equilateral triangle is what we call as the area, which I also call as the overall success of the person, the organization, or the world. The larger the equilateral triangle, the larger the success. But you cannot make an equilateral triangle by extending only one side of the triangle. It will become obtuse. For example, I only focus on growth, and peace and happiness becomes a narrow portion of the triangle. Imagine an equilateral triangle being stretched from the top. It won't be an equilateral triangle anymore. Research has repeatedly proven that people who are peaceful and happy have a way of finding a greater purpose. When I say growth, the immediate question that used to come up with many of the CEOs is they immediately equate growth to balance sheet and profit and loss account. It's not so. Growth can be unleashing the potential of the human being. If you have read the 1940 motivational scholar Abraham Maslow's work, he speaks about self-actualization as the highest need of every human being, the lowest end being what we call as survival needs: food, shelter, trust, social security, love, empathy, and then he speaks about self-actualization. When people unleash their true potential, the growth of an organization becomes multifold. Having worked with several organizations, I found out that if growth is going to be measured only by the money that an organization makes, that organization doesn't last long, nor does it leave a legacy. But in some of the organizations where we have helped them to establish these three pillars, peace, happiness, and growth then becomes a 360-degree affair. Growth in terms of creativity, growth in terms of better service, growth in terms of going out of the way to do whatever is essential to partake in companies' pain and gain. Growth then becomes a mindset where I look at continuously expanding my horizons on all fronts, not just on profits alone. It is like if you have 6 papers to clear your graduation, and only in one paper you score 100% and you fail in all the other subjects, you'll not be a graduate. Likewise, a CEO who is focusing only on the monetary aspects of the profit and loss account will fail on the other subjects, and the organization will quietly exit the space. They may just survive. They may continue to sell products and services, but they will not be there at the higher end. I remember the story of Alfred Nobel, on whom the Nobel Prize Foundation has been formed, that apparently by mistake, an obituary note was written about him while he was alive. It was a very interesting research I found out when I was a school student, when I was doing a radio program. And the person who wrote an obituary note wrote a lot of trash about Nobel, that thanks to his gunpowder, the world is under ruins and things like that. And by mistake, he had published it also. And when Alfred Nobel read this obituary note the next day, he was shocked. Initially, he was aghast and angry. But later, he called the journalist and asked him, "Why did you write such a stuff?" The journalist told him straight, "What have you actually done? You've only been selling something which is going to destroy people and you're making money out of it. What kind of a legacy is that? That apparently brought a big change of heart in him and he left a huge fortune, is what I read in one of the notes about Alfred Nobel. Likewise, many of the CEOs who crossed the threshold of financial stability in their lives, they all look at contributing back to the society. If you take some of the richest people on the world today, whether it's Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or any rich, wealthy person, they are contributing more than 50 to 70% of their wealth back for making a global positive change. Why not make that while you are small? When you have $10 in your hand or 10 euros in your hand, can't you give €1 to someone? Do you have to wait till you make 1 billion euros to give? It is a question of the heart. When a CEO at the level, when he becomes spiritually inclined, he looks at the fundamental requirement of all the people whom he governs, his employees, his suppliers, vendors, customers. If the basic spiritual requirements of a person is to be peaceful, happy, and to grow in a dimension that he chooses to, I may want to choose a growth path which is close to my heart, which is not necessarily financial. I'll contribute to the growth of the company. Yet, I would like to do something which would allow my potential to unfold. I may be a great artist, I may be a great painter, I may be a great writer. Would the company allow? In many of the companies we work today, we help tap the potential of the employees or the stakeholders, as we call, find what is their true calling. Let them continue to work, let them help the company make profits. But when you allow them to unleash the true calling, they become something which is unimaginably positive. And this lies in the crux of the spiritual CEO's principle, allowing a peaceful coexistence where all are able to be peaceful, all are able to be happy, all are able to be participating in their growth, thereby allowing the organization and the globe to grow. We all know today that we are globally at a very delicate crossroad. I was very happy when Mr. David approached and shared about the insights about this group, that people are looking at implementing spiritual practices in their businesses without compromising the need for profit. I was really excited to participate because that's what I have been espousing in my book, The Spiritual CEO. When you look at the building blocks of the spiritual CEO organization, the person who heads the spiritual CEO, we speak about the Indian concept of what we call as corporate karma. Corporate karma in Western, to a Western mind, very simply put, is cause and effect. Every effect is based on a cause, and every cause has its own effect over a period of time. So a good spiritual CEO, a balanced, grounded spiritual CEO, works on the cause which will create the right effects. When you look at the cause, it could be, for example, I speak in this book about spiritual DNA. Many of you are top level CEOs who are watching this program. We all know that when you have a goal, before you move into execution, you have something called as a strategy. And the strategy converts into a plan. If you take goal and strategy as two sides of a coin, what glues and what binds them together is what I call as spiritual values. In fact, a goal and a strategy without a value is nothing but a piece of trash. It doesn't stand the test of time. If the strategy is only to make money in any way, whichever way it may be. That's not the way to look at it. But if you are very certain about the values which form the basis on which your strategies unfold, then you are a spiritually inclined organization. Your DNA or the value system is in place, and hence the karma, what we call as a cause and effect syndrome, automatically finds a way to resonate and get the right effects. We all know that when you play the string instruments, it's all resonance, which makes two different strings to work together and create a lovely music or a jarring note. Likewise, what resonates throughout the organization are the value systems. And a spiritual CEO focuses on the value systems. And when people are aligned to the value systems and then they strategize and execute, the organization not only gets tremendous growth, but people continue to be peaceful and happy. After all, after I retire at the age of 60, 70, whatever, the rest of my life, when I'm out of corporate life, I'll be searching only for two things for sure: peace and happiness. If I start laying the foundation stone when the person is with me from the age of 20, 21, 25, I have shaped him for the rest of the life, where irrespective of the nationality, gender, caste, creed, sex, social status, people are able to peacefully coexist. Wouldn't that be a great world to live in? That is the basis of the book. So thank you, Mr. David, for this initial note. So now I leave it open for question and answers.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash, for your presentation and your speech. It was very interesting. And so now I open the floor to all of you. If you have questions, remarks, anything to share, feel free. As we are quite a lot, maybe I will invite you to use hand in Teams. So if you want to make if you want to take the floor, please raise your hand in Teams. So it's allow me to just dispatch who is going to speak. And please try to go straight to the point. Try to make short question or remarks in order to give space to everybody. So who would like to start? So I see Antonio. Please go ahead, switch on your mic and ask your question or your remarks. Antonio.
Oh, hello. You hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, first, thank you for the organizer and the guest, Mr. Prakash, as well. And yes, I saw this event on Meetup, and yeah, I found it interesting. The link between the business and spirituality, the nice link between these two concepts. And well, I have only a simple question. Is in life we question ourselves what we wanna. Some people question themselves in the beginning of the what you're gonna do in life. We always question this in the beginning of our teenagers or younger stages. And some people they don't develop those definitions yet, and they only say that maybe by they wanna just make money. They wanna just be rich. Many people wanna be rich. They wanna make money. So if I want to know your point of view of anybody here or Mr. Prakar or David. They just according to spirituality, this answer is it right or is it depends or what's the opinion of everybody? I just want to make money. I don't want. It doesn't matter whatever I want to do. I want to make money. That's my comment.
Thank you. I'll maybe share a humorous note as a response to that question. Once a very rich man, maybe the richest man in the world, when he was in the deathbed, he demanded that he will take his entire wealth converted into gold into heaven. And because of the good deeds he had done, he was permitted to do so. And he took all the gold and went to the Pearl Gate. He was permitted inside. And he has an audience with the God. And as he was walking, he found a lot of shiny dust on the floor. And as he met God, God rather asked him, what have you brought for me? He showed all the gold that he has brought. And God looked at him and said, did you see on what you are walking? That is the dust which is made of gold. So really speaking, money is surely important in this world. But in this pandemic, one thing I've seen in my life personally, some of my relatives died, some of my friends died of my same age or even younger, thanks to COVID. And their family members were ready to spend even 10 times their entire wealth to get back this person from the jaws of death. If money was essential, would they have still invested that money or just kept quiet? Okay, let this person die. Not that this person was contributing a lot. When we really look at humans, right from the time of Daniel Goleman's work on emotional intelligence to several people who have done work, everyone has hypothesized one thing. We are finally a bundle of emotions. At the end of the day, I once asked an executive whom I was interviewing or coaching rather, and he was insisting that I am getting so much now, I want double my salary in my current job. I told him that why double your salary? I'll give you 3 times the salary, but I will give you just one small condition for you to earn that. He said, sure, Prakash, I'll do. In fact, I said, you don't have to do anything. If you're earning $10,000, I'll give you $30,000 per month from coming month. All you have to do is every day morning come to office. In the morning, in front of everyone, I'll slap you once. In the evening, in front of everyone, I'll slap you once. You don't have to work. I'll give you the salary. Will you accept? He said, no, I will not accept. I said, why? You wanted 2x. I'm giving you 3x. No, I want my pride to be in place. I want my self-esteem to be in place. Then I asked him another question. In fact, this anecdote is there in my book as well. I asked him, fine, I'll now give you 5 times the salary you want, but I will take your health and reduce it by 50%. Either your lungs won't work well, your spleen won't work well, something won't work. Is it okay? But I'll give you 5 times the salary. No, my health is important. And one after another, finally, I told him that I'll give you 10 times your salary, but I'll take your spouse and your family away. He said, no, not possible. And you cannot imagine this person was one of the greediest person I had met. In less than 15 minutes of the conversation, he understood that there was something bigger in life other than money. We always chase what we think we don't have, but in the process, forgetting that what we have already with us is much more valuable. And many times, like the famous Mullah Nasruddin story of from the Rumi times, we all understand the value of the other things in life only after we lose them. When we have it, we don't know. We are chasing maybe a non-existent end of the rainbow, thinking that that would make us happy. I'm not discounting that money is not essential. In my view, based on my interviews with several wealthy people, they put about 10% of their happiness to wealth. The rest 90% goes to social status, family, relationships, emotional bonding, the need to be accepted, the need to be appreciated, they need to be treated on par. So many factors. I'm very sure that you will also understand all this. I don't want this to happen to anyone, but many of us will understand the shiny side of our life only when the shine is taken away, when you're put in dark. I'll just stop with a very simple one-line anecdote. Once I was speaking to a student. He said, I want all the money. I just said, I'll give you about 5 lakhs worth of Indian rupees. Cut both your hands and give it to me. That's all you need. No, you need 5 lakhs. I'll give you, cut both your hands. He said, no, I need your hands. So why do you need hands? Without hand, how can I live? I said, you said you'll do anything for money. Then he understood when I started putting a factor. This is a famous story which has been quoted so many times. I just quoted a story, converted it into a classroom exercise. And in less than 15 minutes, he was able to put a price tag to each of the part in his body, and it came to about $1 million. And he's, oh, wow, I didn't know I was worth so much. I hope I have answered your question rather indirectly.
Thank you. No, I see Barbara who would like to make to ask a question or make a remark. Please open your mic. Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. So first of all, yes, I would also like to thank David for organizing this session and Mr. Prakash for your sharing with us. My question is similar to the previous one, but a little bit different as well. I was wondering if you have any practical suggestions on how to approach individuals that are very rational and not necessarily focused on money, but in general, view life in a very rational sense, where even any mention of spirituality or emotion can be said to be, oh, well, that's for hippies. Do you understand? Am I explaining?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So it's very difficult to break through in a way. And I was wondering if you have any suggestions on how to open the door.
I will only request you to read a book which I read 3 years ago. It has all the answers. Superb book. I forget the name of the author. I remember the name of the book. Irrationally Rational.
Okay.
Look for the book, read it. It's about 250 pages. Excellent anecdotes and reasons as to actually why humans who claim to be rational actually are not rational.
Okay.
There are no random numbers. There are no coincidences. There are no random numbers. Everyone who thinks they're rational, it is based on some past baggage which is just popping up at the right time. You must take this book and read. You will love if you love reading books. Irrationally Rational. Look for that book. It will change your perception about what is rationality. None of us are actually rational. I have understood this long ago in my life.
Wonderful.
All of us have our own idiosyncrasies, stupidities, false belief systems. Right or wrong, it's up to you to decide, but we have. Actually speaking, in my view, absolute rationality doesn't exist.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Duly
you. Thank
noted.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Nadine who would like to ask a question or make a remarks. Open your mic, Nadine.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon. My question or remark is one that how do you deal in the perfect world when everything needs to be measured by a KPI? And when any suggestion is brought up that might be more on the human side or on the more spiritual side, if it cannot be measured by a KPI, then it is very often not taken into consideration, and then I have to drop the ball.
It's a beautiful question, Nadine. I'll answer it in fact, same question I was asked this morning in a Zoom call with one of my clients. One of the executive asked the same question. Let's say that, let me take an example. Say you are driving from Paris to, say, down south, some Montpellier, somewhere by road. Let's say that it's about 800 kilometers or so, right? You know where you want to go. But from Paris to Montpellier, will you be able to see where Montpellier is from your car? Not possible. At the max, you will be able to see about 200 meters, 300 meters at best, if it's a daytime. Nighttime, maybe with the headlights on, about 100, 150 meters. What we can do, KPI in management parlance, we call it as key performance indicators or key performance initiatives, which are inputs. And what they create are what we call as KRAs or key result areas or outputs. The next 100 meters or 200 meters, if I go off the road without driving properly, will I reach Montpellier? No. If I think I have to go to Montpellier, I have to go to Montpellier, I have to go to Montpellier, I keep pushing myself, scream at the peak of my voice, you will not go. The next 200 meters is in your control. If you drive focused on the road, following the way in which you have to drive, if you cover 200 meters, you are 200 meters closer to the goal for sure. We always say when it comes to goal setting or KPIs or whatever you want to call, know where you want to go, but don't be obsessed. Follow the process. And the process includes being a balanced, value-based human being. I have seen based on, see that there is a fallacy, people say that nice people finish last. It's not necessarily true. If you look at all the Cinderella stories, all that we have read from our childhood, good people always win. It is just that apparently the play of cards sometimes seems to be such that it confuses you a bit. I take it as a test of character. When I face a sort of a hurdle on the road, would I buckle down, stop, or would I find a way to cross the hurdle and continue with my journey? In fact, if everything happens as you wish, will life be interesting? I'll share a very short anecdote from a movie. 60 years back, there was a Hollywood movie where a person dies and somebody commits to take him to heaven. And he goes apparently to the heaven. The agent takes him there. And this person is very good at playing cards. And he goes there, he continues to play. Almost 6 months, all the card game he plays, he keeps winning. Because heaven is supposed to be, everything is good. At the end of 6 months, he cries and shouts saying that, what kind of a place is this? Everything is happening as I wish. I don't want to be in this heaven. And then this agent comes and says, you think you are in heaven? This actually is hell because all your wishes are coming true. Sometimes struggle is what makes us better. And good struggles in the longer run gets you a page in history, whether it's Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Jesus Christ, Prophet, whatever you want to take. People who have struggled and stood by values are remembered for life after life for generations. Would you like to compromise and lead a short-term life, or would you like to stand by where your grandchildren say, wow, what a grandmother I had? That is something I would love to follow. It's for you to think. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question or remark? Don't be shy. Yes, Anthony. Switch on your mic.
Just a fast question. What's the meaning of Prakash in your language?
Prakash means in Sanskrit in India, light. I'm supposed to bring light to you, knowledge, awareness. Prakash actually in Sanskrit stands for light. It's something that glows from the sun. The light that flows from the sun, which illuminates him. That's what the name stands for. Thank you.
And what's the meaning of David?
We'll discuss the meaning of the first name maybe more in private. So maybe I have a question for you, Prakash. So how do you start a conversation with a CEO or a top manager within the Western world? As it's really the topic of our group, really find ways to start about what spirituality could bring into businesses. So, what are your tips, or how do you deal with that approach, especially with people from the Western world?
See, I mentioned it in the talk itself that we believe in India, we believe in a concept called karma. For a Western mind, a karma is nothing but cause and effect. Would you want to work on the cause or would you want to work on the effect? If a CEO focuses on the cause, see, cause is like a seed that you put in soil. It will stay on for lifetime. If it's a banyan tree, it takes 150 years, 200 years, and it lives on. Effect is when we are only focused on removing the fruits from the tree. That will be very short-sighted. I remember a famous quote from a French general during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte, who was approached by a soldier and he was asked, I have a plant which I have a sapling which I have to plant. When should I do it? And then the general asked him, how long will it take for the sapling to grow? And the soldier says it will take 3 years to grow fully. He says it's already late, go ahead and plant it right away. See, many of us look from a very, very, very short-term perspective. If you look from the long-term perspective, if I just ask you one simple question, who are the top 5 people who have touched your heart in the last 50 to 100 years of this world? If you honestly give an answer, all these names will be people who have lived by values. Money is a byproduct. Money will come. To be in business and to say that you don't need money, I'll be mocking at you. No, not at all. But when you focus on values, when you allow people to, I would always say that empower your people fully. Let them unleash their true potential. When you chain an artist, tie both their hands at the back and give them a brush and a canvas, what can they paint? The same thing we do with all our employees. We chain them at the back by saying, go and get profits. Whereas the true potential, which is hiding inside, never comes out. As a CEO, work on empowering your people. I have seen in my life, with all the people I've coached, tutored, helped them to grow, when I help them to unleash and find the true cause, purpose of their existence, they've gone on to become brilliant people in their lives. However small, however big, they have left huge impact on the fabric of the society. Focus on the cause, focus on people, empower them, money will flow in.
Thank you. If someone would like to take the floor, it's no or never. We come to the end of the timing. So maybe if someone have a last question or remark, please feel free to ask.
Bricks, bouquets, both are welcome.
Nobody, everybody plays a shy game.
The Spiritual CEO book is available in Europe in all the Amazon sites.
Yeah.
You can search for it, you can get it in case you want to further read this book. Kindle
Yeah.
version is also available.
I share the link before in the chat on Amazon because it's a bit tough to find it in local library. So at least on Amazon you find the print and the ebook version of it. And yeah, so if there is no more remark, just again a big thank you to Mr. Prakash to be with us today. It starts to be a bit late in India. So thank you for your time. Have a very good evening. So the next meeting of the group will be on the 14th of October. So we will be back in Switzerland. We will have as a guest Johan Henri, which is a psychologist based in Geneva, and he will talk about transpersonal and integral psychology. I also share with you the link to the playlist on YouTube where you can find all the recordings of our session. So feel free to have a look on it. The recording of this one will be available in 1 or 2 weeks. And so please don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel of YouTube, which it's a good way to just make it know and to be find easily by other people interested by the topic. So again, thank you a lot, Mr. Prakash, for your time, for all your knowledge. And yes, I hope we'll stay in touch and discuss also at any other time on the topics of interest. And thank you to everybody who attend, ask the question, and interact with us.
Thanks, David. Love from India. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.